water getting in somewhere around this window and wicking and this
spraying against
it, and now you've got a moisture issue.
All kinds of moisture problems.
Most of the time when we open these up, the windows are actually flashed fine.
Okay.
And it's typically not the window letting water in unless it's real obvious. And a lot of times what we find is someone came in after the fact, caulked around the window, and they just drove a blade in around the window to create a gap. And instead of being careful about it, they just drive it right in there, cut around the window, and now they've cut through every piece of flashing that's back there.
Right.
You know, so it's really not always the window that is having an issue, you know.
Okay.
Sometimes, and you can tell when you rip it down.
Yeah.
And then if that's the case, then yeah, it can get ripped out, replaced or whatever.
Now, do you guys, with the quote, I presume there's going to be some wood that needs to be replaced?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you don't know until you rip the wall down.
We'll do whatever sheathing needs to be done.
Okay.
And if there is any kind of major framework that needs to be done, that's going to be extra.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So, because
so you include
just takes
the
so
sheathing,
much more time.
not the framing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if we have to do structural framing, then it's going to be a pain in the butt.
We were just looking in the basement.
I'd be very surprised.
There's no sign of anything like on the sill plate.
Now and again, there's like a soft spot, or one of the kick studs is. Just rip that piece out and put a new one in. It's usually not a huge deal, but occasionally we'll get into a house where, I don't think this will be the case here, but there was one house in the history of me doing this we got into, and the whole front of the house had to get reframed. But it wasn't just moisture and termites and rot and mold and all kinds of nonsense.
Right.
But you've got this whole place. You've got too high, no resistance and a high reading.
Right.
Not a big deal. And again, we pop all the shutters off and caulk all the windows, caulk all the doors, caulk all the penetrations, anywhere where anything's coming through the house, through the stucco, that all gets sealed. Yeah, it's really not too big a deal over here, actually. And now I guess people are going to start getting cycle inspection stuff.
Yeah.
Hasn't been the thing in the last couple of years.
Did you need to see inside at all?
No, I don't need to see inside unless there's something pertinent.
Nah, I mean
there was a little bit of water staining.
Water staining under that window.
Under the sill.
Just off the right side of the sill.
Gotcha. All right. Well, so I mean, we'll see it.
Right.
If we're here doing the work, we're going to see what's going on when we open the mall up. You'll be able to see exactly where the water's getting in at, because that's where you'll get. It'll just be like a tiny little bit soft there.
Yeah.
And then wherever it runs to,
that's all bad.
Is where it rots.
Right.
Especially if OSB doesn't run water all that well.
Right.
So, if it's plywood, it can get wet and then it'll just right through the capillaries of the wood, just keep running through and dry out, spread. But with OSB, it just sort of stops and sits, and it'll just soak that spot over and over and over like a sponge, and then that'll rot.
That makes sense. Yeah. Right. Because
Capillaries
don't run the whole length of the water.
Not the wood chips.
Right. Yeah. Runs that far, right?
Yeah, you got too much wood chips, and they can only get so far. So, all right. Well, let's check one on the other side here. But again, I mean, you've got these sprinkler heads right up against the house. I mean, hopefully
I presume they're pointed this way, but I don't know. Obviously,
they usually have a pretty wide swath of how so. Just I would get those checked.
Yeah.
And if they are hitting the house in any fashion, I would have them cut off and move forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because you don't really.
Yeah, I can't imagine we'll use them real often if they're spraying our house.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's this little wash along here that that's all cracked up. That should probably get repaired. But and then it was this guy, right?
It was this corner here. Well, there's this buckle here. You can see that was mentioned in the report. We just thought that was settling.
It's got some efflorescence.
Yeah. And then that gutter, you can clearly see.
Oh yeah.
Just dump it off in the
not
corner.
functioning correctly.
Yeah, it's you got a whole bunch of cracking in here,
Yeah.
and that water's just it's going to be running between this J channel and the stucco.
Right.
And then, yeah, of course you're going to get a high moisture reading in there because, you know, anytime it rains, water's just going to dump out of here
Yep.
right into this crack.
Yep.
And you can see it's going to destroy this
Oh, yeah.
coin.
Yep.
But that can be repaired, sealed, the gutter reattached. That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, probably.
You know? These guys can get repaired.
Okay.
You know, if you're concerned about this bulge, which yes, it probably is just settling, and
If you're not concerned, the other guy didn't seem concerned. I'm not
Yeah.
concerned. Then, that's fine. I just want to make sure you
yeah,
saw
I mean
it.
it's one of those things where yes, of course you've got high moisture
it,
readings
right.
there. You've got water dumping into it, and
Yeah.
it's destroying the coins.
Yep.
But they're not completely.
If we get to it in the next month or two, it'll be fine,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this, it's like, you know, yeah, there's a bulge in it. There's no big giant open crack.
Okay.
If it really bothered you, then yeah, you take this
doesn't.
wall section down and you replace it.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
But otherwise,
Yeah.
it's not a huge deal, really. You know. So I want to repair over here, and then
Yeah.
again, you know, you can paint if need
If
be
need
if you
be.
want to, but
Yeah, so he was saying he believes this is a standard color. So it should be fairly close to repair. If we decided it wasn't, then we get it cleaned.
yeah. And what I'll do is I'll write it up to where we're just doing the stucco work over there and the repairs over here and
Yep.
anything that needs to be done on caulking and that kind of stuff. And then I'll give you a price to paint the
Yep.
house
Yep.
and all the stucco. And that way, if you say, well, let's get it done and see what it looks like, and then after that, you're like, it's not
Right.
as close as we'd want, paint the house. You know?
Right.
It's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah,
You're
right,
going to have
right.
to do the stucco work
Right.
regardless. And doing it in a color isn't going to cost any more than
Right.
when you do it in type S, it's going to be gray.
Right. Right.
You know, it's just not going to be as close.
Right.
So it's, you know, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, right. No, right. It doesn't have to be all one shot. And I can't imagine telling the current homeowners that we want to paint the whole front of the house would go over well.
Mm.